Hi, welcome to Tools on Tech. So I watched a couple of reviews for the OSMO Mobile free, and I thought, well, for $100 this sounds like a nice little doohickey to do some videos with. Little did I know that I have no experience with gimbals at all. So I got this device, I put my phone in, and it wasn't doing anything I wanted it to do. It was flipping the screen around, it was shooting left when I want to shoot right. Basically, it quickly showed me that I'm a total noob when it comes to these devices. So after using it for a month now, I thought, why not make a video and show people what I've learned as somebody who has never used a gimbal before the first time. Let's get into that. So I'm not doing a review, I'm mostly looking at how to use this device. I got the combo package, which comes with this nice little box and this small thing to prop it up. So you open this up and it stands on it. Now it fits very well, you can see the packages in it. And my suggestion, if you do consider on getting this, is to not, because it's absolutely pointless if you use anything. It comes with this small bag. It's a rugged device, there's no screen on it, so it can take a couple of scratches. And if you do anything like this, you probably have a Gorilla Pod. If you do not have a Gorilla Pod, I would highly recommend saving the $30 and buying a Gorilla Pod, because you'll be able to do most of the things and a lot more with it. And just for the hard shell and the small thing to prop it up, I wouldn't bother. But, you know, to each his own. So one of the things that I had to figure out was how to put my phone into the gimbal without dropping it. So I figured out a way like this. I'm holding it with one hand, then I can use my other hand to put the phone in, make sure that it's fixed, and then use it without dropping it on the floor, like happened a couple of times when I was trying to figure out this method. Another thing I learned was that I'm not very patient. So starting the app, in the beginning I was constantly pushing the button to connect to the camera and trying to get quicker to the camera. In reality, you just need to be patient a few seconds, it will connect and then switch to the camera automatically. So now that we got a few basic tips out of the way, one of the things that I learned after messing with this thing for a week is that it's meant for right-handed people. And as you can see, I'm a lefty. So what happened is that I was moving around with it, I was toying, and then I was trying to do one of those low shots and it flipped around. Now, you can easily see that's because it's blocking the lens. But I didn't realize that at the time, or tried to keep it out of the way of the lens, and it flips very easily. Until I was explaining it to a coworker and I just happened to hold it on the right hand and discovered that you can go all the way to the floor and back. Yeah, that was something I wish I'd have learned, not after a week, but maybe after a couple of days. The other thing is that I am not a patient man. It's clearly that I'm not a patient man, because I tried turning it into a direction and then it slowly goes into that direction. It's obvious because it starts to stabilize. But I got impatient and I was like, why isn't it moving? You have to think ahead with these things a bit. So if you want to make like a nice smooth corner, you have to think ahead and then turn it. And it will get there. It will eventually get to the same point as where you're holding your hand. The same is for looking up and down. You can do like this and look to the floor and look like that to look up, and it will slowly get there. But one of the things that happened, I was like following someone. And then what you happen to do, you don't notice it immediately, but you move your hand forward, and when you move your hand forward, you start moving it like this, and then you start filming the floor. This was one of those things that now that I've been using it for a while, it's like, yeah, it's obvious, but it's not. Not when you get the device first. You're wondering, why is it filming the floor? Why is it filming the roof? Why am I seeing just sun when I'm trying to film the guy skateboarding in front of me? Once you have this pat down, you're way ahead of like the initial game. And then the trigger comes in. So the trigger keeps it focused. So if you want to do something like where you move your hand forward but keep looking forward, you just hold the trigger and then you can do this. Then it stays nice and stable. Unlike what happens if you don't hold the trigger and you can see that the camera starts pointing down. Basic stuff is mostly this and a lot of practice and you'll get there. Now, after this, I'm going to talk about a few things like techniques that I tried, and I'll give you a few amateur examples that show you what you can do with this if you're not a professional. Much more pleasant or more realistic for most beginners, I think, than what I've saw in reviews from people that have clearly done this for decades. Let's get to that. Now, a few tips on the basic features that are on this. You're currently seeing me quickly cleaning my room using the time-lapse function. And a few things to keep in mind when doing a time-lapse is that you should pick something that changes often and not to pick a too large scene. So at some point I tried shooting from a Ferris wheel because there were people moving, and yeah, there are people moving, but because it's so far away, the time lapse is very boring to look at, unlike this where there's constant motion. Another feature is the hyperlapse, and for those ones, just like the time lapse, a busy location is best, except now you are moving from A to B. And that is important because when doing a hyperlapse, you should think about where the movie is going to end. In this case, at a cheese store I was walking towards in Amsterdam. Now here I'm showing the OSMO Mobile making panoramic shots. It's pretty trivial to use, just make sure it's on a camera stand, because having a fixed position will make for better panoramic photos. And this should be a feature you already used plenty on your own phone. Now some meat of the usage, and that is glide motions, which is one of the things you get a stabilizer for. The first thing that I learned is less is more, meaning that you've got a stabilizer to make sure that there's not too much motion. And one of the things that kept happening for me was that I tried to make like these nice pan and zooms around people. Yeah, that just makes it very busy and not what people are expecting. Another one that you can use is try walking on your toes or watching your breathing. So the device tries to stabilize as much as possible, but you can help it along by being lighter on your step. Now, finally, something about planning. Plan ahead on your route. Whatever you're trying to film, be sure to know upfront what route you are going to take from beginning till end. It won't always work out, but if you have a plan, you can make that nice gliding motion. A few basic techniques that I was taught and I was experimenting a bit with is the zoom in, which means that you get closer to the subject to put it in the spotlight. And also the zoom out, in which case you start with a person and then reveal the scenery around them as you move back. Finally, and this is a bit of a cop-out, lots and lots of practice. Thank you for watching the video. Now, I just got this thing. I'm going to mess around with it the coming months. I'm going to go on a holiday, have a lot of practice with it. So in about 6 months I'll do another video with this device and see how much progress I made as an absolute amateur. If you don't want to miss that, be sure to like, subscribe the video and get notified once that video is up. Finally, I'm aiming to have new videos up every 2 weeks, and I haven't been making that lately. Life is getting in the way, some things need to be done. Don't worry, I'm optimizing my schedule and it will be back to 2 weeks sooner rather than later. Maybe I'll miss one set when I'm on holiday, but I'll be sure to stitch some footage together and show that to you guys. And remember, you're awesome, keep it up.